Hi, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Kevin Quaid. I'm 58 years of age. The 9th of the 9th, 63 is when I was born, so my birthday is actually coming up in a couple of days' time. I was diagnosed with Lewy body dementia about 4.5 years ago, after first being diagnosed with Parkinson's. But I'm probably 8 years into my journey with Lewy body dementia. And my life before Lewy body dementia, I suppose my life was really sales and construction, mainly construction. The last big construction job I did that I was exceptionally proud of was I was a project manager in an apartment complex right in the heart of Sydney in Australia, overlooking Sydney Harbour. And I think when I topped it off and we got the penthouses finished with a view of Sydney Harbour, it was one of the few times in my life I gave myself a pat on the back and said, well done. Little did I know that that was the last construction project that I would ever take part in. And I'm going back just over 6 years now, when a doctor, to go back about 7.5 years ago, within the space of a 1.5 years, I had got some serious illnesses. Now, when I went to Australia in 2010, I suffered quite badly from high blood pressure, and I was on 4 blood pressure tablets a day. But due to the lifestyle there, I was actually reduced down to 2 tablets a day. So I had thought that my health was going in the right direction. Little did I know what was coming. I was first diagnosed with Boerhaave's disease. I was diagnosed with Paget's disease. I got viral meningitis, and I got, I think it's the H1N1 bird flu. And in the space of a 1.5 years, that really knocked me for 6. So we decided we'd come back to Ireland. We tried and buy a little house for ourselves, someplace to retire, but the plan was to still work in Australia, but just have a base in Ireland. In my last trip to hospital in Australia, which is probably coming up on 7 years ago now, one of the doctors said to me, he said, would you get yourself checked out for early onset Alzheimer's or Parkinson's? And I thought he was mad, but I had an uncle in America who had died from Alzheimer's. So, you know, I said, maybe there's something in this. So we came back to Ireland, met my GP, explained what had happened to me in Australia. He got all my records. He set me up with a neurologist who did a lumbar puncture and came back that I had Parkinson's. She wasn't happy. She knew there was something else wrong. And within a matter of months, we had gone through PET scans, MRI scans, CT scans, X-rays, bloods, you name it. Everything was perfect. But she was not happy. So she said, I always remember, she said, I'm going to send you for a scan. And it's just to completely rule it out. I can probably rule it out now anyway, but it's just to be sure. And it was called a DAT scan. It's literally capital D, small a, capital T. And lo and behold, it came back positive for Lewy body dementia. Now, she was as shocked as I was. But funny enough, my wife she's well into medicine, and a niece of hers is a doctor. And it wasn't a shock to her because they had discussed the possibility of Lewy body dementia before that. And of course, what was the only word I heard? Dementia. And I said, no, I'm having little memory problems, but no, I just can't have dementia. I never heard the first 2 words Lewy body because I didn't know anything about it. And my God, what a road that it has been since. My doctor put me in touch with our local dementia advisor, who was Amy Murphy, and she met us in the memory room in Mallow, County Cork. We just sat down with a cup of coffee and we spoke about likes, dislikes, do's, don'ts. So I was amazed at all the different things that were there to help people with dementia. And she suggested that I contact the Alzheimer's Society of Ireland. And I said, yeah, no problem. I've nothing to lose. So I became a member of their working group. Then I became vice chair of the working group. Then I became chair of the working group. And now I'm vice chair of the European Working Group for People with Dementia. So I got involved in some research, and I remember one of the first research projects that I was involved in. I was to meet this Professor Andrew Wormald in UL in Limerick, and I just said, what am I going to say even to this man? This guy's a professor. I'm a guy with Lewy body dementia. I was terrified to meet him. Now, little did I know that Andrew had felt the same way about me. And within our second meeting, he made me co-lead in the research paper. And that for me was a massive wow moment. So if I can go back again to my early days of being diagnosed with Lewy body dementia, my neurologist was so overwhelmed that I had it, that both her and her team asked me to keep notes on a weekly basis, but on a daily basis if I could, about my symptoms. Because most days I'm like I am right now. If you were to play a guessing game, I'd say, what disease do I suffer from? The last thing you were going to say is dementia. So I kept notes, and after, I suppose, 6 months, a doctor suggested me one day, he said, would you ever consider putting this in a book? It would be of great help to us. So I wrote my first book called Lewy body dementia, Survival and Me. And it's the story of my life, basically, who I am, who my family are, things that happened to me growing up that I thought may have led to my Lewy body disease, and how we dealt with it as a family after being diagnosed. My wife, Helena, wrote a chapter in it about what it was like to care for someone. All my three children, my three stepchildren, one of my brothers and a good friend of mine, all wrote a piece on what it was like and the way it affected them. Because it's not just one person that gets diagnosed, it's the whole family. And it can be really tough on families. And I can tell you here and now that it's a lot easier to have Lewy body dementia than to live with someone who has Lewy body dementia, or watch someone you care about go through life with this disease that's both progressive and incurable. Like, they're hard roads to take at the beginning. And like, I suppose I've always had a positive outlook in life. So you either fight or you lie down, and I've never laid down yet, so I ain't going to start now. And the Alzheimer's Society of Ireland, I could never thank them enough for the working group and European working group. They've become my second family. We're about to launch Lewy body Ireland as well, because there's over 65,000 people in Ireland with dementia, and there's a minimum of 10% of those with Lewy body disease. So that's between 6,000 and 10,000 people. I know between 6 and 10. So that's a lot of people are afraid to talk. And what the ordinary man on the street needs to know about this disease is, when I'm good, I'm out. I can be out enjoying myself. I can be at a football match like I was yesterday. I can be in a pub having a few pints with the boys and a laugh and a joke. But when I'm bad, I'm not out, I'm at home. I'm at home and I'm full of fear. I can wake up in the middle of the night crying. I won't know who I am. I won't know where I am. And who the hell is that person alongside me? Is it a man? Is it a woman? Is it an intruder? And I'm talking about my poor wife. It gets to a stage where it's only her voice I recognize at night. And sometimes the nightmares are so horrific that they will last with me all the following day. And they're the days that are bad, and they're the days you won't see me out. And Lewy body dementia, it comes with a whole load of side effects. It brings a lot of baggage with it. I have a lot of bowel problems. I have a lot of bladder problems. I've sleep apnea, REM sleep behavior disorder, diverticulitis, asthma, blood pressure. So, it's not on its own. It brings the entire family. And it can be a tough one to live with. But after writing my first book, and I launched my first book, there was 200 people at it. Couldn't get over it. And little did I know at the time, I was one of the first people in the world to ever write a book about Lewy body dementia from a patient's point of view, which blew me away because the doctors have written books, carers have written books, but if you want to know what it's like to live with Lewy body dementia, there's no point asking me, I don't know. You ask my wife, or you ask a carer. But if you want to know what it's like to have Lewy body dementia, then I'm the guy you come to, because I know what it's like to have it. I know the fear that surrounds it. I know the irrational fear. I know the hallucinations. I haven't been able to drive in over 4 years now. I walk with the aid of a walking stick, but that's an improvement because I was gone on a walking frame. My house had to be adapted for wheelchair use. So instead of going backwards and going from the walking frame to a wheelchair, I went from a walking frame to a walking stick, which is, it's a good way to go. So there's been a few positive moves. I do a lot of work, as I say, for the ASI. We do a lot of advocacy work. I love to be involved in fundraising, and I write a local article for a newspaper. And I'm doing that now with nearly 3 years. And I'm about to finish my second book called I'm Kevin, Not Lewy. And that book is what you can achieve when you get a horrible diagnosis, as I have. And there's a chapter in it about a friend of mine that had cancer, and he's since passed away. There's some beautiful poems in it written by different people. A good friend of mine, Helen Brennan, she's wrote what it's like to live with Alzheimer's. And there's so many different stories in that book. But the idea is that when you've read, when you're finished, I want the carer or the person with dementia to put it down and say, if they can do it, I can do it. And if I can get that message across, then that was worth spending the time that I've spent writing it. It's not easy. Some days are good, some days are hard, but I choose to take the easy road. If I live long enough, I'm going to die from this disease. But I live in rural Ireland, and I could walk across the road tomorrow and a tractor could knock me down. So there's much point worrying about when I'm going to go or how I'm going to go. And there is a terrible stigma around dementia that we need to get rid of, all types of dementia. And the one big thing that I would say to everyone is, if you go to your GP or your neurologist and they say that you have dementia or that you have a touch of dementia or that it's part of old age, well, then I have news for you. This may come as a big news flash. You have not been diagnosed properly. Because if you go into a doctor's surgery and they will say to you, you have a cancer or you have a touch of cancer, they're not going to say it's part of old age. You have not got a proper diagnosis. There are over 400 different types of dementias. And if you're told you have dementia, then you've one of the 400. But the trick is to find out which one you have. And if you can find out the proper diagnosis, then there is a proper treatment. There is a way of not stopping it, of not curing it, but there's a way of arresting it. There's a way of slowing it down. And there's a way of giving you a better quality of life. You may be on one road, you may be on one path. But the day you get diagnosed, you come to a Y in the road. So you may have to go a different way. And that's true of everyone, no matter what type of diagnosis of dementia you have. But don't ever accept from anyone when you're told you have dementia. You need to know what type. And then you go and you find the help, the proper medication. Like the type Lewy by dementia, the least amount of medication you're on, the better it is, because the more medication you take, you're feeding the beast. I was on antidepressants. I was on so much stuff. I was hardly able to eat. I was so full from medication. I don't take half that medication anymore. And my quality of life has improved. So I suppose the day Helena and myself walked into our neurologist's office and she gave us the results. And as I said, all I had was Lewy body dementia. All I had was the word dementia. We went in as husband and wife, and we came out as patient and caregiver, if you like. But our life didn't end there, far from it. Our life stopped it. I've met wonderful people. I've traveled the length and breadth of Ireland. I've been on radio shows. I've been on numerous media events. I've done podcasts. I've been on TV. I've met people I would never have met in a million years. And you know, when we go out to conferences and we have meetings face to face, things like that, we actually have fun. We actually can have a lot of fun. People with dementia, you know, we've a good sense of humor and we can laugh at ourselves at times. And the one big thing, and I suppose the message I leave you with is, the town I live in has 2,500 people. And I launched my first book there with my family, my sons, daughters, stepchildren, grandchildren, local politician, and we stood up on a stage and shouted from the rooftops, I have Lewy body dementia. And you know what happens when I go to town now? When I go to the local coffee shop or the local pub, people will say, hi Kevin, how are you doing? I say, aren't I out having a cup of coffee? I'm out having a drink. I'm out having fun. And when I'm able to do that, I'm fine. And guess what? I'm not treated like Kevin Quaid, the person who has Lewy body dementia. I'm treated as Kevin Quaid, the human being. And that's the way I want to be known as. Kevin Quaid, the human being. Thanks.